Politics. I'm Jim McQueenie. With the Iowa caucuses less than 2 weeks away, time is running out for Republican candidates to make their cases. But what is it voters there really want to hear? Dr. Bart Rossi is a psychologist and a frequent guest on Paramount Politics. Spent several years in the Hawkeye State, has an insider's perspective, I guess a perspective about where politics and personality meet here in this primary right now, right?
Right. Well, you know, I wrote a couple articles on a winning personality, and what does that mean in terms of a political figure? And what I'm thinking about is that in Iowa in particular, where I got a bachelor's degree, people are really looking for someone who's stable, thoughtful, reliable, doesn't flip-flop, someone who they can kind of bet the ranch on, you know, somebody that they really like and they see as being consistent.
Well, in terms of the middle of the road thing, which is sort of what you're saying here, how is it then that Ron Paul, who isn't exactly, it seems, in the middle of the road, ahead of the pack right now?
Well, I think he presents himself as someone who makes a decision on the issues, whether you like it or not. His foreign policy is questionable to a lot of people. He has other issues on the domestic side, but he wraps his personality, whatever that personality is, and it's not the most fantastic personality in terms of an outgoing sense, but he puts himself around the issues and how he wants to see the issues. So his personality then intersects the political spectrum in terms of how he sees it. And I think he's coming across a little bit better to the voters because they see someone who stands for something and who is reliable in how they present.
Now, you've been out there as an Iowan here, but it's also significant to know that whoever does win, and we'll go through some of these candidates, has never gone on to win the presidency after they've won the Iowa caucus. So you really wonder whether this is just endemic to Iowa as opposed to any national augury.
Well, some I get about 40%, I guess, go on from the Republican side, yeah.
All right, what about Mitt Romney? I mean, you talked about stable, middle of the road, all that kind of stuff is appealing personality trait where personality meets politics. Well, he seems to be that way.
Well, you know, we talked about Romney 4 years ago here on this show when he was running, and he finished third, you know, behind Huckabee and McCain. And I think he looks better than he did. He looks more fluid. He presents himself quite well. But the one thing that seems to bother me about his presentation, he looks like he's somewhat timid at times. He doesn't choose his words and come across in a dynamic fashion. And I think that's why he didn't do so well, you know, 4 years ago. He doesn't really distinguish himself in terms of having a personality that's really likable by the public.
You know, it's a little bit like, Bart, it's like that movie years ago about selling things and how you sell it, and the winning thing was truth in advertising, small but boxy, talking about Volvos.
That's right.
It sounds like he's the Volvo candidate.
That's a good analogy, really, because there's just limits to him, and that's why I think he's only getting 23 or 24% in the polling.
Let's go to Newt Gingrich if we can for a second here, because this doesn't seem to be the middle-of-the-road type of guy who's shy, retiring, all this kind of. Tell us about this.
You know, psychologists talk about explosive personalities, you know, people who actually maybe they become violent or really problematic. I wouldn't say that about Newt, but I would say volatile. He's got a very volatile personality, and he seems to be able to say whatever he feels like saying.
Well, how's that square with the personality and politics of Iowans right now? It wouldn't seem not to fit.
I don't think it's fitting that well. I think he was up, and I think that's why he's coming down in the polls, because that volatility.
Now, again, this is people reading personality.
Yes,
to go to your point.
And I think they do. They see that he makes you a little nervous. He makes you uncomfortable in how he presents himself. He really does. You know.
All right, we'll see if it ends up in that order. Is that how the order's going to be, you think?
I think Paul could win this. I think Ron Paul could win it.
All right, we'll come back to that. All right, very good. That'll be doing it for this week, just about anyway. First, we want to let you know we have a brand new New Jersey Paramount Politics Facebook page. If you have a comment about today's show or what you'd like to hear more about in future shows,